Hey guys, Angus here, bringing another Airsoft review today, and boy, today do we have a cool gun. Today we're going to be reviewing the DBOYS PDW Full Metal Airsoft AEG. Now if you're interested in purchasing this gun, after you watch the review, there'll be a link down below in the description to airsoftstation.com where you can buy the product for about $200. Now with that being said, when I heard I was getting this in, I was actually kind of excited. Back in the day when I was a younger airsofter, kind of just starting out, getting serious into the sport, quite a few people had these. Since then, until now, I hadn't really seen them, so this is kind of cool, kind of a reunion between me and the DBOYS PDW. And frankly, I like this gun quite a bit. So let's go ahead and get into the review. Let's start off the review by going over the gun's packaging. Now when you first get the product, this is the box it will come in. It's a plain cardboard box with a large white sticker. When you remove the cardboard box, this is what you should see. The gun itself is contained in between two styrofoam molded halves. On top of the first half is a pink piece of paper covering operating precautions, a small plastic bag containing your DBOYS PDW owner's manual, as well as some stickers for your PEC box. I would recommend you read the manual. There's some important information in there, as well as a parts breakdown and a short little history about the PDW itself. Then there's a 90-round speed loader. Upon removal of the styrofoam top and those three items, this is what you should see. The gun is packaged fairly well inside of that white styrofoam that gets everywhere. Inside the box, there is a spare blazing orange flash hider, a metal outer barrel extension, a plastic vertical foregrip, a small bag of 200 or so really low quality BBs, a small plastic bag containing a metal sling swivel, a replica plastic PEC box containing a 9.6 volt 1200 milliamp small type battery, a standard wall charger with small type connector, a 90 round mid capacity PDW style magazine, and of course your DBOYS PDW Airsoft AEG itself, shown here with the included PEQ box, vertical foregrip, and sling swivel attached to the gun. Now in the box, this gun looks pretty cool, and when you pull it out of the box, you're like, whoa, this gun's pretty cool. And you're like that because frankly, out of the box, this gun is a beast. It has a solid feel to it, a great amount of heft, actually quite a bit of heft. The gun probably weighs in 7, 8, maybe even 9 pounds. And the reason for that is because the title of the gun isn't lying to you. This thing is basically 100% metal. There are only a couple pieces of plastic on the gun itself, and those being the blazing orange flash hider, of course, and then the gun's pistol grip, which is composed of a fairly nice quality ABS plastic. Other plastic pieces that are not on the gun do include the vertical foregrip, which is made of a fairly nice quality composite plastic, however it is a little bit cheap. The PEC box is composed of a nice solid quality plastic with a metal rail attached to it, and your magazine is plastic as well. But everything else on the gun is made of metal, including your outer barrel, your rails, your upper and lower receiver, your sights, your stock, you name it, it's metal on this gun. This is an actually full metal gun, and externally it's very, very nice. Externals wise, the gun is bare of any trademarks with the exception of a bright white serial number located on the left side of the gun's lower receiver. Internals wise, the gun uses a metal version 2 gearbox, similar to that gearbox of an M4. DBOYS internals, they've been on the rise lately, are fairly good quality. Again, I have had experiences with these guns in the past. Most of the guns I've had experience with worked flawlessly. There was one case where the gun was not very good internally. Then again, I can't vouch for how well that player took care of the gun. But overall, the internals on this gun, they're metal, they're solid metal gears, and I have never really had an issue with DBOYS internals. They're on the rise lately as DBOYS is continuing to step up their game on the airsoft market. Alright, so the externals of this gun are awesome and rock solid. The internals, they're pretty darn good. Metal version 2 gearbox. What about some features on this gun? Let's go ahead and hop into some of the features of the DBOYS PDW. The first feature that's key to talk about on the PDW would be its battery space, which is just semi-con. They give you that PEQ box for a reason. You need it to mount a battery, as there is nowhere to hold a battery on the gun itself. Clearly it can't hold it in the stock, being there's a folding stock, and the front handguard area is just so narrow, it's really impossible to hold a battery in there. Therefore they give you a PEC box. Some people might view this as a con. Frankly, I don't. They give you the PEQ box, you don't have to spend any extra money, and frankly, I think it looks pretty cool. The battery is simply stored inside the PEC box, and once it's in there, you don't really ever have to remove it. You can simply charge it from inside the PEC box if you really wanted to. Couple cons some people could list is being that your wires are exposed. Perhaps they could get shot somehow, very slim chance, but honestly that could happen. And something else others might try and complain about would be the fact that the PEC box takes up one of your side rails, which you could use to mount, say, another accessory such as a flashlight or laser. Well, you don't actually have to worry about that, because what I thought was really cool is the PEQ box actually has a metal rail located on its side. Therefore, you can still use that rail on the side of the PEQ box to mount the other accessory you would normally mount on the side rail of the gun itself. While we're covering rail space, we might as well cover the fact that the gun does have two other rails on its front handguard. One located underneath the handguard and one located on the right side of the handguard. The left one, of course, being taken up by the PEQ box. These rails offer you all sorts of customization options. As you can see, the lower rail being currently placed on there, the vertical foregrip, and the bare right rail, which you could probably mount a flashlight or a laser on there. Doesn't matter, whatever your heart desires, you do have the rail space to mount on this gun. Moving on from the rails, we come to your gun's fire selector switch, which is located not only on the right side of the gun, but also on the left side. So you get an ambidextrous fire selector switch. The selector switch is your standard M4 style, being the small dial that you only set at the settings. It operates in that mode. The settings are standard: front, safe, up top semi-automatic, and all the way back, full auto. Now, I actually found this selector switch to be one of the cons on the gun, being that there's no issue when it's on safe or auto, but when the selector switch is on semi-automatic, it's very loose and tends to, after a few shots, shift in between settings, causing your gun to lock up and be unable to fire. So one thing I would definitely do when I got this gun was tighten that selector switch up immediately so you can actually fire on semi without locking your gun up when it slips off of semi. The gun's iron sights are flip up and fairly decent, located on the large top rail atop the gun. The gun's rear sight is a standard flip up sight that was just a large open hole aperture you look through to line up with your front sight. It is adjustable for windage via the large dial located on its right side, and when flipped down, it looks like this. Your front sight really isn't anything special either. It's just a sight post located between two long bars that you would line up with your rear sight. It is adjustable, I believe, in the sight post if you had the sight post adjustment tool, but otherwise it's just your typical iron sight. When flipped down, looks like this. When the sights are flipped down, like now, they give you a great view of the gun's very long top rail, so you can go ahead and mount really any optic you want up there. Personally, I prefer an optic over the iron sights, and I think a nice EOTech would really look great on this PDW. Now, another obvious feature of the DBOYS PDW would be its metal folding stock, currently in the extended position. If you wanted to fold the stock over to the right side of the gun, simply give the metal button here a push inward. At that point, the stock will begin to slide over into its folded position on the right side of the gun. There's a small sort of ball point that the stock hooks onto, preventing it from wiggling loose. In fact, you can shake this gun all you want, but the stock isn't going to come loose. Once it's latched onto the folded position, it's going to stay there. The only way to get it to come off is if you were to grip it, take it, and push it out like so. The stock gives you a nice reassuring clack, letting you know it's back out in the extended position until you choose to push that button and fold it over again. Why have a folding stock? On a PDW, which is be great for CQB, it's nice to have that folding stock to cut corners a lot easier. Now, magazine-wise, the gun includes a 90-round mid-capacity plastic PDW style magazine, as I stated earlier in the review. In order to eject the magazine, you do have an ambidextrous magazine ejection button. The one being located on the right side is much bigger, probably more accessible, and you guys are probably used to it if you run standard M4s. The problem with that, though, is that when the stock is folded, you cannot access it whatsoever. Luckily, the gun does have a magazine release located on the left side of the gun as well. This one's very accessible. You can easily access it with your forefinger. Push it in, and your mag comes out. As I stated, mid-cap mag, you don't wind it at the bottom, you simply load it up with your speed loader, and it feeds down to about maybe the last 5 VBs. I didn't have any feeding issues with it, locked in, fed fine in the gun. However, you don't have to limit yourself to using only that magazine, as this gun is fully compatible with other M4 style magazines, high caps especially. The gun's hop-up unit is accessed by pulling back the weapon's charging handle, like so. And if you can't tell, this gun also features a functional bolt catch. The hop-up itself, I didn't find to be too special. I found it giving a little bit extra range to the BBs, but not too much. So a decent hop-up, nothing especially great though. In order to release the bolt catch, simply push in the release on the left side of the receiver. This will cause the gun's dust cover to snap shut. Alright, so we're back where we started, and that's because it is time for the final conclusion of the DBOYS PDW review. Bottom line, would I recommend the gun? I'd have to say yes, because frankly, me personally, I like the PDW. I think it's a cool gun because it's original. It still has that feel of an M4, and it also takes M4 magazines, which is an invaluable asset in the field, but it's different looking and it's original gun. So if you're going for something that nobody else has, as these guns are fairly uncommon, a PDW might be the right gun for you. Also, it's got some pretty cool features. Battery space is kind of a con with the whole thing where you have to store it in a PEQ box, but who cares? Along with a bunch of other accessories, they give you the PEQ box, so it's not like you got to spend extra money on it. Also, the folding stock is a great thing to have on there because being that the PDW is more so designed for a CQB or urban environment, it's nice to have a folding stock so you can shrink down the size of your gun, be able to shoot around corners, and have a bit more maneuverable of a weapon. One con of this gun being that it does shoot a little bit too hot for CQB, so if you did want to use it in its proper environment, you may want to crack open the gearbox and insert a lower FPS spring. Another thing I like about it is I love it when guns have RAS on them because you can customize the crap out of this gun and make it really look unique. You don't have to use the included accessories such as the vertical grip. You have the rails, you can put whatever you want on there. Maybe a camera mount or something, laser, flashlight, and maybe even a grenade launcher if you really wanted to go crazy. But otherwise, you got the rails, you can do what you want. The iron sights the gun comes with are flip up, therefore you can lower them if you have an optic on there, and frankly, they aren't that bad at all. Final thing I want to say about this gun is external, it's great. It's a solid weapon. It's basically entirely metal and it has a great feel to it. I'm not a big fan of shorter weapons. I like to have a longer gun in my hands, but frankly, the PDW is very well balanced, very nice weight to it, therefore it has a very nice feel when you're holding it. So with that being said, I would recommend this gun to anyone who's probably above a beginner level, definitely an intermediate or above gun, who's looking for something that's slightly original, still takes M4 mags, and will do well in either woodland games or CQB. So with that being said, guys, thanks for watching. This has been Deathcore Airsoft's review of the DBOYS PDW Airsoft AEG.